Well, good evening if you're in the USA. I am Bruce, aka the guy in the blue shirts. I'm known here on LinkedIn, and my method is simpler, faster, better. And I help people do process cleanups either as a company, organization, or individual. And I am so honored to introduce you to Monica, who is also traveling like me. Neither of us are at home. I'm actually in Darling Harbour, Sydney. Isn't that a beautiful name for a location? And where are you, Monica?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina, visiting my
Uh-huh.
mom.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Mhm.
So is that a regular destination or just
Yeah,
something
definitely. I'm based out
awesome?
of New York City, but I like to come here. Consider it home also.
Oh, awesome. Isn't that wonderful when you can do that? I love to be able to. And just before we went live, we were talking about, what it's like to travel and how you have to go with the flow
Oh,
and kind of the excitement and the unpredictability of that. So
yes,
that's going to be our conversation, right? Go with the flow. All
definitely.
right. And we have a young man join us. Hey there. Thank you. Hi, good evening. Yes. Let us know where you're from, Abdullah. So that would be great. And yes, you actually are into something that I am not familiar with at all. Hi, Robert. Thanks for
Go
joining.
Raleigh. That's great.
Go Rally. So if you don't
Woo!
know Robert, or you do know Robert.
I don't think I know Robert, but I love that he's enthusiastic about Raleigh.
Yeah, absolutely. I've only been there a couple of times. So usually on travels when I used to be a corporate road warrior. Now I get to pick and choose where I go in my own
Mm,
timeline. So
which is
because
so nice.
that's the beauty of going with the flow. All right. So yes. So tell us a little bit about permanent design, and it's intriguing to me, and I've seen some of your posts. So
Mm.
tell us a little bit about what it is and how you got into it, please.
So permaculture design at its essence is designing like Mother Nature.
Mm-hmm.
So Mother Nature, when left without man's intervention, designs itself in a way so that it's beyond sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
It's regenerative.
Right.
It becomes a well balanced ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea, hi, Mr. Groovy.
Oh, Mr. Birdie from Los Angeles. He's
Wonderful. And so, what does this look like
right.
when you say, okay, so it's designing like Mother Nature? So perma most of the time, the way that we talk about permaculture design is talking about it in the sense of agriculture and plants, just because it's a
Mhm.
really good metaphor. It's really visual. You can place
Right.
it, kind of figure it out. So a forest had all the pieces in the forest support each other. So
Mm-hmm.
what does it look like when we design farms that do that?
Mm-hmm.
And what they found is that what it looks like is um a farm that takes in that's taking in into account is being designed for everyone in the farm, the animals, the people, the plants. So when you look at indigenous cultures, they had this symbiotic relationship between the
Right.
plants and animals and them. I think what was different about permaculture is that two ecologists sat and did a lot of research and were able to show that this um, that nature designs itself in a certain way. So
Right.
permaculture was co-founded by two Australian ecologists in the 70s. So,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Awesome. So before we go further,
mhm,
actually, Ferlin Quang actually uses plants and her love of flowers, and she always
um,
says that they're always ready. They always show up at just the right time. So Ferlin does a lot of good learning lessons from her love of plants and flowers. And funny enough, I was walking along the quayside of Darling Harbour and I saw a garden up in the sky. I sent her a picture. Actually, I think I sent her a little video. So she was kind of intrigued that, there were our favorite bougainvillea flowers and greenery way up high in this building, and underneath was a cafe. It was amazing. So maybe a good example of what permaculture design should be. They seem to have it well designed here, at least in the Darling Harbour area of Sydney. So
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
sure. I mean, that's where it started in Australia. They've been doing it for way longer.
Right. And Shannon's on. Good morning. Shannon is celebrating Entrepreneurial Day. I can never spell that word, so I call it Solo Biz Day. So thanks, Shannon. And then Mackenzie. Oh, hi, Mackenzie. Long time no see. Thanks. Thanks for jumping into the live stream. And yeah, so come stay with us, and we love the support. And so how did you get turned on to, well, what was it that ignited you to get really interested in this topic?
Well, I think it started because when I live in New York City, I've been based out of New York City since the early 90s. I spent some time out of the city, and I was
Hmm.
living in Alaska, actually, Southeast Alaska. And I
Oh,
learned
okay.
in a tiny little town called Skagway, and I learned how to grow food. I was surrounded by all these people who knew how to garden and farm, who came from places where they had large kitchen gardens or they grew up on farms, and they taught me how to grow food. And I
Uh-huh.
fell in love with it. And I did it for as long as I was there, and then I came back to New York, and I really missed it a lot. And I was
Hmm.
trying to figure out how I could find it again. So I got involved with the group because it said that they were about growing food, but they were also about alternative energy. And it was the permaculture meetup, alternative energy, and all these other things. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting because they're looking at the bigger picture. It's not just the food piece, they're looking
Right.
at energy and waste and all these other things. I want to go check them out. I want to learn more about this. And I went to the meetup in 2000, I think it was like March of 2007, and that was it. I
Oh,
joined
okay.
that meetup. 2 months later, I was doing my introductory level design permaculture, and then it's been 15 years.
Oh, wow. Good for you. And actually, it's interesting, and I just love live streams because you always find out, common ground that you may or may not think you have with somebody. And last year, one of my last live stream guests was actually an English guy and his amazingly talented US design team. And they actually have come up with biodigesters, which they're actually helping not only large hotels but large arenas use.
Oh,
And the
that's amazing.
reason for reason for biodigesting, to cut down the amount of landfill, which turns into methane gas, which
Yes.
as you and I'm sure know, methane gas is the largest pollutant other than aviation fuel. So it's unbelievably toxic when we put food waste into landfills, and it creates all this methane gas that we don't know what to do with. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I have a friend, Kathy Puffer. She does small scale biodigesters for the home, and she teaches people how to do that on a small scale. So good.
Right.
Amazing.
Oh, yeah, well, we should cross connect. His name's Ian, and he actually has come up with a machine that's his smallest one is like a kitchen dishwasher size. So it's
That is so cool.
yeah. So I think longer term we will see newly designed homes that
Mhm.
start to realize that, hey, we should probably have a biodigester as well as a dishwasher built into the kitchen. And then that food doesn't end up in the landfill, and it ends up back in the metropolitan sewer districts as water. So that's the byproduct. Is water is how it works. It's amazing. I find it so fascinating. So
No, I
all
think
good stuff.
that's biodigesters are an excellent example of one of our permaculture design principles, which
Right.
is produce no waste. The idea that in nature, waste is a resource. So how
Right.
can we create systems? How can we have that be a thing in our systems where waste has become a resource for us? So a biodigester is a great way. So
Right.
the other thing I was going to say about permaculture design is that aside from that, it's how it's learning how to design like Mother Nature, but it's also about how do we meet our needs
Right.
in a way that's sustainable and regenerative. So our needs for waste, for dealing with waste, for energy, for building, for food, for
Hmm.
transportation. Like how can we use those design principles and overlay them into our systems that we have, transportation system, food distribution systems, all these different systems.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to my conversation with Ian, was that I didn't realize, but his big effort is on large ships
Mm. Oh,
because
great.
typically, as you know, shipping waste goes into the ocean.
Yeah, you see that
So
a lot in
he's
Southeast
actually
Alaska.
right, yeah. So he's
Mhm.
actually educated some, you know, shipping lines and particularly cruising companies that biodigesters are the way to go because putting water back into the ocean is you know safe and it's the right thing to do instead of putting all the junk, you know, all the food waste into the ocean. It's not good for the ocean.
Not
So
at
yeah,
all. I think
not
that's brilliant, and I hope that that industries move more towards that for sure.
right. Well, and then the other thing, you know, and a lot of us, you travel a lot, I know, a lot of us don't think about, you know, how do deserted, you know, islands deal with their bio waste, you know, and it's a big issue, especially big hotels. It's like, you know, where do they put their food waste and what can they do with it? And other, you know, non-food waste. So yeah, it opens up a whole new thinking platform around. Hmm, I have never thought about that. Right? We enjoy island life, or I have from time to time, but I've never really thought about well, what happens to all the waste. So
Yeah, I've lived on a couple of islands, so definitely you realize how finite
yeah,
things are when you're on an island.
yeah, it's the balancing act, right? It's between doing the right thing and also, you know, taking care of everyone's needs and interests. Like
Mhm.
back to your original opening statement about the forest. You know, the forest is figured out to do that. So yeah. So what are some of the I guess what are some of the top couple of misunderstandings about what you do? What have you learned
I think
along the
that
way?
I think the top misunderstanding, and it's understandable because so many permaculturists talk about agriculture, is that permaculture is agriculture, and it's really not. I'm actually teaching. I'm teaching now the permaculture design course. It's a set 72-hour curriculum at two universities, and one of the things that people realize within that first week is that permaculture is more than agriculture. Example, there's a woman in my course and she was saying how before she thought she was coming in to learn farming techniques. Now her design has pulled back and she's got her entire farm and her house and everything is in it because now her design is going to be about waste and about energy and all these things that she hadn't really thought about. And then she's going to be trying to, it's really about what are the functional connections in between all of the things that are in your design and how
Right.
can you get maximum functional connections.
Yeah.
So I think that if you're looking in an urban environment, I live in New York City, so I don't do a lot of, in the ground farming. Most of the gardens and things that I work with are container gardens,
Right.
and but I'm still looking at how these gardens will interact with the schools or the community centers that they're in. So I factor a lot of people into my designs, and that's something that you don't factor in as much when you're designing a farm per se that's out away from the city. So I think the top misconception is that it's agriculture. It's a design system, and it's a
Hmm.
design system that you can use on many different climates and many different situations, urban, rural. And I think the other misconception is that it's it's such a combination of indigenous wisdom,
Hmm.
indigenous ecological wisdom, and
Yeah.
applied technology like solar panels, like
Hmm.
biodigesters,
Right.
right? It's a really great mix of all of these things. And
Hmm.
one of the things that I like to say a lot is that what's great about what Bill Mollison and his co-founder did, David Holmgren, was that they were able to bring science into Western science, the way that Western science recognizes information, in
Hmm.
and to permaculture, to what previously had been considered, indigenous, like folksy wisdom. So they've
Right.
been able to give a little bit more of a backing to it, which I think is
Hmm.
really important. Just to say, look, it's not just cosmology that says this is good for the forest. This is
Right.
this is actually good for the forest. It's good for everything, right? And I think that that's an
Yeah.
important. I think that's a really important piece that has been brought in, and
Hmm.
that, yeah, I think those are the two that come to mind.
Okay. So, what are the common pushbacks you get? Because I'm sure you get some, and the fact that you teach is awesome. I'm glad you're doing that. Thank you for spreading your wisdom. But I'm sure you get some interesting pushbacks about, well, it always starts with well or but questions, right?
Yeah, it's interesting because I get more of those from my adults. So in the fall and winter, I teach college, university, and then
Okay.
in the spring and summer, I teach younger children. I teach
Oh,
young children, like kindergarten to 8th grade,
right.
and so it's always really interesting who does give pushback and
Hmm.
how.
So is
Um,
it more the adults or more the
yes,
kids?
no,
More
it's
the
the adults. It's which is so interesting because the kids are, I have to say this about children. Something I learned as I was becoming a teacher. Children are naturally big picture thinkers. They're naturally whole systems thinkers. And
Right,
we learn how to silo when we get to about junior high. For anyone who isn't in the US, that's around when your children are 11, 12, 13.
right.
And they learn how to silo. But up until that, everything is very holistic. Their
Hmm.
education tends to be pretty holistic.
Right. Yeah,
And as adults, we have to learn how to go back to that.
right. Yeah. I'll go back to the inner child, right? The inner playtime,
Yeah,
which
and I
is
think that different people have have a um an easier time with that for sure. Yeah.
right.
I think what I see
Yeah.
more with adults is trying to I think as adults we have a hyper awareness of how dire things are.
Hmm.
So I don't think anyone's trying to be difficult. I think they're concerned.
Right.
We're in a pretty
Well,
serious situation
yeah,
ecologically.
sure.
So they're like, what's the point? And I'm like, oh my
Well,
God.
right. Concern leads to, or I find in at least the people I help, concern will often lead to a sense of loss. And when you get into a sense of loss, it's, oh my goodness, what do I have to give up? And then the old C question comes up, what do I have to change? And once we get into that spiral, and it's not for everybody, and you're probably in a similar arena to me, I find that, taking on board what people should do with my guidance, I'm in the 6 to 8% quadrant. There's only 6 to 8% that want to do either the work or do the changes, or the work and the changes to go actually want to make their life simpler, faster, better, and actually want to go clean up a bunch of processes that they've become very accustomed to doing and very comfortable doing, and they can do them like clockwork. They can do them like muscle memory. So it begs the question around, how much do we really want to change to do the right thing right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I think that change is difficult for everyone. And that in order to be concerned can be a motivator of change. I think,
Hmm.
also self-interest can be a motivator of change.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I don't know, y'all. I don't know how good this is gonna go for us. We might want to do things different.
Right. Yeah.
So
It's
I
the
tend to go
it's
that
that sense of
route.
loss. Yeah. Yeah, it's curious to me because, I, like you, I work with a bunch of smart people, and smart people are incredibly naive sometimes. They know what it is, they know what they should do, they know that they should be working on that, but then they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So there's a
Here's
big,
something hopeful. Speaking of
uh-huh,
smart people, I work in the public school system. That's my personal preference. And
right.
I work with some of the most amazing progressive educators, principals, teachers, and they
Hmm.
are definitely aware and they definitely want to make change in their
Right.
communities. And that is super, for me, it's incredibly inspiring to work with
Hmm.
them. And one of the principals that I'm working with in the spring, I will teach all 600 of her children for the entire school. I will
Oh,
teach the
okay.
entire school. We're going to do a 4-part series, and we're going to redesign the kitchen. We're going to redesign their recess garden.
Oh, okay.
And what's great about her is that she sees it. She sees why this is important. She sees why it's so important to get the kids involved, get their buy-in, get their opinion, teach them what they
Right.
don't know so that they can give informed opinion.
Hmm.
And also she sees that the ripple effects will go way farther than
Yeah.
learning how to design an organic garden and being
Right.
part of the garden build days. Like she sees
Yeah.
it. This is big for them to think about what is nature and what is nature in an uber concrete jungle like New York City.
Right. Absolutely. So, I always, my mission, at least as I finish up 2022 and definitely into 2023, is, I have a passion for making sure I pass on a legacy, not only to the generation behind me, but ideally 2 generations behind me.
Yes.
And the reason for that is, they're going to become our future. And if we don't help them with all the resources and all the tools around, what does being a high performing leader look like, or a high potential leader, and so yeah, I love it. And in a selfish way, I love working with the younger energy. It fires me up, it charges
Me
me up.
too.
Yeah, I know, it keeps me young. It's like
Yes.
you know it's like you can drink all the and take all the supplements you want, but if I spend a couple hours with what I call high pots, they just fire me up. They get behind me, and they keep me motivated and keep me focused, and then I always want to do better. I always want to do better, not only for them but myself. So I love it.
No, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
So what do you think so do they have obviously they have a current state of the design in that particular school area, in the recess area. Have they actually come up with what their future state looks like?
Well, we started the process last year. We're going to continue this year. There's been big budget cuts in New York City. So I think we're going to try and figure out how we're going to make this happen.
Right.
And big budget cuts in New York City in general, but we have a new mayor and also in education. So
Uh-huh.
this is just, that's how it goes, public schools. So I
Right.
think we're trying to figure out how we're going to do this. But
Okay.
they're into it. They're into it. They're super cute.
Good.
I mean, we have plenty of child labor.
Yes. Well, I have a very simple concept that I use, particularly with people that are a little bit resilient. And I say, hey, if you can just get your team, or in this case, the group in the whole school, think about, what can I do to save $1 a day,
Mm.
right? And that is a simple question, but it creates a deep level of thinking. And in your case, if you've got 600 in the whole group there in the school, and you're going to educate all 600, imagine if each sick person can come up with save $1 a day. That's $600 a day. You don't need any program funding at that level. I mean, it funds itself, right? So that
Yeah, I think you might be thinking Arizona prices. I'm like, what are you talking about?
conceptually
We're going to pay that in delivery fees. What are you talking about?
conceptually it's all about concept,
But I hear
right?
you. I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I think that the PTA, there's they're very active and they're trying to fund lots of things.
Right.
So we'll see what happens, but
Well, and then the other thing I was going to say is that people can't always wrap their head around, monetary things. So I say, well, what if you could save a minute a day? Get into the time saving, because time saving will typically flow to the bottom line in terms of some type of financial benefit, or some type of way to do some more funding. So yeah, so saving time and saving money at a very low incremental level per person it can take on a massive shift in the way that, particularly because you've got 600 people, that's a good sized number. That's some momentum that you can get them to start thinking about and acting upon. So
Hmm. So I think that one of the things that we got right into it. So I forgot to really say what I do. So I'm the executive director of a nonprofit called Beyond Organic Design, and I work in the public school system. That's what I do.
Awesome. All
Yeah.
right. Well,
And then,
actually,
huh?
yeah, I was going to say actually it's perfect timing because I was going to ask you a little bit more about what you've got coming up, and by the way, I want to thank you for being a trooper because I know you've been sick. So thank you for taking lots of tea and lots of liquid this morning so that your voice didn't
Yeah,
completely
I
go.
yeah, I made sure that I was going to be upright and able to talk to you for sure. Um,
Sure. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you
so
got
Beyond
coming
Organic
up and a
Design
little.
is my nonprofit that I founded in 2015, and I've been
Hmm.
working. My idea was to take permaculture design from the colleges, in which it's mostly done, private
Right.
colleges, into a public realm. That was my
Right.
mission. And then I also, during the pandemic, when the schools were closed, I founded our consulting arm, which is Beyond, just Beyond.
Mm-hmm.
And we work with schools, individual schools and school systems in the way of curriculum and training and coaching kind of things. So
Okay.
and for that, I'm the CEO. But
Awesome.
so
I'm
you're
sorry.
asking me, what am I doing? So right now, what I'm working on is Um, I'm working on curriculums. I've been really uh, fine tuning my curriculums,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been and there are I have all kinds of different ones that I do in after schools programs. I have a summer camp that's been going for 7 years. That's free to the children, and because we got a grant from New York City,
Oh,
and
cool.
then I've been now what I'm doing is that I'm working on a high school course,
Mm-hmm.
so a version of a permaculture course for high school. So that's really exciting. It
Awesome.
doesn't exist.
Yeah. When will that launch and
So
what help you need with that?
when will that launch? That was your first question, right? So it will launch
Right.
next fall.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
And
what was your next question?
what type of help would you like to make sure that happens?
Well,
You need help? Or
yeah, I definitely need help. So I've got a really great team right now, but when
mhm.
it comes in in March, we will be launching a fundraiser to get the curriculum and take it through the finish line. I will be hiring the graphic designers and a lot of different things to be able to get this
Right.
to look as beautiful as we want it to be and as engaging as we want it to be. And um, we will definitely, I'll let you know when that happens. But it's exciting because one of the reasons why this hasn't happened is because it's a very big endeavor.
Yes. Massive. And also, it's probably, as we talked about earlier, it's probably not for everybody. And also they need, people that are motivated and passionate like yourself. They probably need to, we need to mold more Monicas, right?
Woo! More Chilean forces of nature. I think that's
More-
the
I love it. Okay, well, LinkedIn users commenting. Actually, LinkedIn user, I'm not sure why you're not showing up, but I do know there's a setting way down in
Oh,
your
that's so cool. To get
privacy.
that.
Go ahead.
No, I was just reading what he wrote, what the LinkedIn, I'm saying it's a he, but it could be a woman. My drafting class teacher let me redesign the school cafeteria and into 3 convertible classrooms and a gym. This was in the 90s. Of course you did. That is an amazing project. That's what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, project-based learning. That's the other
Project.
part of my course is that it's a project-based learning course. So they're going to be doing projects to
Right.
apply all of this information that they're getting. And I've
Yeah.
been already doing this and it works really well. And what I'm excited about is that the problem is climate disruption and how it's affecting our society. There are
Mhm.
tools out there. One of them is permaculture design. There
Right.
are other tools,
Yeah.
but I know this. We can't fix anything with the thinking that got us into this, right? We need to think differently. I think
Yeah.
Einstein was the one that said that. And what's great about permaculture design is it goes back to the big picture instead of hyper focus. And when you go big picture, you have less unintended consequences when you make mistakes. And then the other piece of that is that we need more whole systems thinkers. We have a lot of specialists, but we also need some generalists. And my hope with my students, the littles to the big ones, is that we are helping to support that way of thinking,
Yeah,
which can only
absolutely.
benefit us all.
Right. And you make a great point. We've taken many, many years to get to the point where we are. It's unrealistic to imagine we can wave a magic wand and unfix it and make it different in a short period of time. And I find it intriguing. I'm a process whiz, and I say to people, hey, how long have you been doing it this way? They'll say 20 years. And it's like, well, why do you think you can fix it in 2 months? Right? It's just totally unrealistic. So yeah, I've had that debate with many leaders before. It's like, you got to be realistic about shifting, the thinking, shifting away from, we've always done it that way, but it's going to take a lot of effort to do it a different way.
No,
So,
absolutely. And if you think
yeah.
about public school, and if we make this, my intention is for this course to go national. So you have this course that's teaching children critical thinking and big picture thinking, right? Then, and you have it go national. That's a lot of power, youth power, going out into the world,
Right.
and exponentially it can grow.
Absolutely. And that's exciting, but for some people that's pretty scary as well.
Yeah, I think climate disruption is scarier.
Yeah, for sure.
But hey, I live in New York City, so it's scary for us.
Well, we thank you for all your effort and your passion. So, if somebody wants to find out more or learn more, how would you prefer them get a hold of you?
They can send me an email. My website is www.beyondorganicdesign.com. Or
Okay.
that's a really good one. And my email is it's Monica@beyondorganicdesign.com.
Okay. All right. Well, feel free to drop that back into the comments, which you'll be able to do once it goes up as replay, and I will do that straight away. And talking about organic design, I'm supposed to go on a boat ride, and it looks like it's going to rain. So I might have to replan my thinking today. We'll see. Anyway, so thanks so much. Just hang on a little bit. Thank you for everybody for your wonderful comments, and I love it when people participate in live stream. And again, I love learning from our guests. I tell people, it's like going to Global University a couple of times a week. I get to talk with some people from all over our wonderful planet on all sorts of different subjects. And this one I knew very little about. So thank you so much for genuinely helping educate not only myself, but everybody else that would listen to this live or as a replay. So awesome job, Monica.
Thank you.
Hang tight. All right, I'm just going to do my little outtake. Don't go away, and we'll say goodbye to everyone.
Okay.
So, all right, here we go, I think.
You're frustrated that you have no time and you just hate it. You lost your mind. You're running around the kids and the spouse, and the business that was once your passion has got you burnt out. So, consult with Bruce, the guy in the blue shirt. He'll help you find the truth so that you can do you first. See, it's all about simpler, faster, better, so you can save massive amounts of time and money instead of longing for the day where you can finally kick your feet up. Oh, do yourself a favor. Call up Bruce. He'll tell you about process cleanup.
There we go. Devin James, he's an amazing brand storyteller. So when you get to your point next March, you might, I'd love to introduce you to Devin if you want him to help you with getting the word out. He's extraordinarily gifted.
That was very good. I can understand. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and it was like 2 edits. That was it. I just gave him all my stuff, and he went to work, and we did 2 edits, and boom, it was done.
Amazing.
Simpler, faster, better in action. He was amazing. And then what was even more amazing, I got to meet him last September in Portland, because I was following my passion, which is IndyCar racing, and I got to take him for lunch. So it was awesome.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Portland's a great town.
Yeah, it
There's
is.
a
Yeah.
lot of permaculture in Portland.
Yes, I actually noticed a little bit. And in fact, I went to the Japanese garden for part of the afternoon after the IndyCar race. Oh, you've been there? It's a magical place. Lots of, very interesting energy there.
Yeah, I loved it.
You did? Yeah,
I absolutely did.
They did an awesome job, and the way they weaved it into the city infrastructure is a great example. So, all right, well, thanks, Monica. Thanks for toughing it out with your. You're welcome. So just hang for a minute. Bye, everybody, in the comments. And if you want to learn more from Monica or myself about what each of us do, you know where to reach us. LinkedIn, for sure, for me. All right. Bye for now.